out there, and that's a tall task for him. I don't know. I think we may need to revisit our playoff prediction for them, Jason, because I'm not sure they're making it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go look at that prediction and see where we have them. So, uh, I don't have them in the playoffs, and you don't either. So, oh no, you do. All right, so you better hope they do good. I mean, look, as a Nets fan, and I guess we could segue because I know you've been chomping at the bit. I need the Warriors to have a top 10 record because that's the only way that that first round pick will convey to Brooklyn,
Yeah, not happening.
next offseason. I know. So I guess that first round pick that Kevin Durant demanded has ended up, staying at Golden State and could very well be a lottery pick. But that's what the Warriors need to improve from within. I think they'll be better with Clay, but it just goes to show that the Splash Brothers need each other. I mean, Clay can't thrive with Steph out, and vice versa. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the truth is, I mean, I think people are going to overreact. I think the Warriors are going to be okay. Just the defense, Jason, is going to be atrocious. And I don't think people realized how much right now. I mean, Eric Pascal, all due respect, again, Westchester, great. Um, glad to see him thriving, but they need Kevon Looney and they need Willie Cauley Stein to be playing. They need real big men on this team, and without those guys, they just have no rim protection whatsoever, and their guards and forwards just can't hold up on the perimeter, and it means that they're turning into Swiss cheese, and other teams are just getting to the rim at will, and when that happens, the defense collapses and it leads to wide open threes in the worst spots on the floor, like corner threes, and that's what you've seen every game. They're giving up layups and threes, which are the exact shots that you cannot give up if you want to be a successful NBA defense. So they'll have to clean it up. Getting back Looney will help. Getting back Willie Cauley Stein, amazing to say that sentence, but that will really help them. Um, I think they'll be all right, but yeah, I'm not sure playoffs are in there with how tough the Western Conference is. But Jason, let's drum roll here and tell me about the Nets news of the week.
I mean, this is all over the place. I mean, if you're living under a rock, the Nets are 1-2. They have two losses, both 1 point losses in overtime. They did beat the Knicks last Friday, which thankfully, in my area and my psyche's sake, they won that game. And they almost blew it. The Knicks almost beat them. But there's a lot of good to take away, some bad. Obviously, let's start with the performance of Kyrie Irving, scoring 50 points in his Nets debut, and then that potential game-winning shot where Okogie was on him and he fell and still managed to get the shot off. I mean, Ben, imagine if that shot went down. Would have been the greatest debut in NBA history, no?
It was pretty great, and there was some corners of the internet that were saying that he did it on purpose, like it was an and one move, which I enjoyed that at least in theory.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, in theory, yeah, that's nice, but the Nets lost. And then, these are winnable games. They had a very soft schedule to start. They should have beaten the Timberwolves. They should have beaten the Grizzlies. They could have been 0-3. They could have been 3-0. Again, it's 1 week. It's a new team. I mean, half the players are new. I mean, the one problem I have is the defense so far. And also with the way Levert's looked early, really good. The way Irving's looked early, I mean, leading the league in scoring. He's broken so many net records already, most points in a debut, most points scored through the first 3 games with a new team. And Dinwiddie's also looked great off the bench. But it seems like when those three players are in and they're working, there's a lot of standing around and watching. And I think that's contributing to getting back slowly on defense. I don't think DeAndre Jordan's looked good early. I mean, Jared Allen has been fantastic to start, and then he ends up coming off the bench in the Memphis game. Allen's looked good, but DeAndre Jordan, I mean, those missed lobs in the first game, he's not rebounding the ball the way that he should. His defense is not the way it should be. But a guy like Jordan has to get the benefit of the doubt, Ben, because, he's shown that he can be no, it's not just about in the game. He's been great, leadership wise, and he's bought into the team concept. You just have to hope the encore play gets better. I mean, but what are your early takeaways from watching Brooklyn, your pseudo team?
Well, I really like the Nets. I'm gonna say right now, DeAndre Jordan, if he does not pick it up, he's gonna be one of the worst plus minus players by the end of this year because I I have watched a good deal of Nets already this season, and I mean he has been so lazy on defense. I mean, if you watched, I know you watched against Memphis, Valanciunas hit the first three. He was 15 feet away from Valanciunas. So you'd think the second time he'd at least, do something. Gave him another 15 feet, drilled in again. And it happened a third time in the game. And I mean, the announcers for Memphis were almost laughing because of how lackadaisical Jordan was. I mean, he hasn't been boxing out, hasn't been contesting shots around the rim. I mean, if he doesn't do those things, Atkinson is going to have to start thinking really long and hard about cutting his minutes down because he's been bad. The rest of the Nets have been really impressive, I think. I think LeVert's shooting has been kind of not maybe quite as great as they were hoping. I mean, he kind of picked it up, but he's been terrible from the line, hasn't been great from three. I think he's going to be just fine. Same thing with Dinwiddie. I think Dinwiddie's going to pick it right back up. So I'm not worried at all. I think Prince has looked like a fit. That's an interesting team that they have there. I think Allen is solid. My biggest concern is just going to be that Atkinson stays a little too long with DeAndre Jordan because Jordan has just not looked like. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Jason. Watching a couple of those Nets games, he did not look like an NBA guy to me. He looked like a guy who should be outside of the rotation at this point with the level of effort he was giving.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm questioning some of Kenny's decisions early on. Like, there were a couple of opportunities in the Memphis game where he could have used his coach's challenge, and the announcers on the Yes Network thought he was going to. He wound up not. Giving DeAndre a bit too long of a leash, and I don't know if it's like the presence of Irving and Durant, who basically said like, "They're signing Jordan too. We all want to play together." And he's afraid to kind of make that move. But I want to see Nick Claxton get some minutes there at the 5. He's looked good in preseason. He's been practicing with the G League team now that training camp has started with the Long Island Nets. So I think Kenny needs to kind of sharpen his tools a little bit when it comes to coaching. But like I said, it's early. It's a new team. I thought they'd start slow given the trip to China. I mean, the studies show you go abroad during the preseason, you're off to a slow start. Like I said, they could have been 3-0. They could be 0-3. They're 1-2. I think it's an important game on Wednesday against the Pacers. Not one of our marquee matchups, but it's one that the Nets have to get, mostly because it's my birthday tomorrow, and I need the Nets to win because they can't lose on my birthday. But before we move to your Bulls, there's just something I have to get off my chest. So, I've been saying this for months since Kyrie Irving announced he was coming to the Nets. I mean, this is his last chance at a reputation. A solid reputation in the NBA. He was on favor in Cleveland. He left there on bad terms. Was supposed to be the savior in Boston, had 2 very controversy-filled seasons there. Comes home, he had that big speech before the Nets opener, getting emotional about how good it feels to be home. And then that moment after the win over the Knicks where he hit that dagger 3 over R.J. Barrett, hugging his parents who were sitting courtside. He gave his father his jersey. Irving seems as happy as he's ever been. And I don't know the guy, but he just looks genuinely happy. He's got Kevin Durant there, his best friend in the league. He's got Jordan there. He's close to his family and his friends. And then Jackie McMullen, who's a very well-respected NBA writer, spent a few days with the Nets and wrote this big story. And a few sites, I'm not going to name names, but were throwing out clickbait all day saying that, Irving's antics making Brooklyn officials queasy. And what else did they say? That, there was an issue in China and Nets officials are tiptoeing around. That is complete and utter bull. Okay? Irving and KD signed with the Nets, Ben, because they liked what Brooklyn was building. They have a culture in place. They made the playoffs last year. Now, the culture is good for guys like Dinwiddie and Joe Harris and Karis LeVert, who are either young guys who were drafted low or guys that were cast away from their first teams getting a new shot. So when the Nets said jump, all these young guys said how high. It's a little bit of a different story than when you sign superstars, guys that have won rings, Olympic gold medals, been to countless all-star games, countless personal awards. They became superstars for a reason. They have their own routine. And Kevin Durant is quoted in this article. That's why I'm saying any Knicks fan, any Nets hater who is seeing this clickbait and saying, oh, Irving's up to, read the article. Because even KD said, look, I signed with the Nets because I like what they have. That said, I have my own routine, but I want to see what they're all about. Maybe we can meet halfway. Because there were a couple of examples, Ben, and I'm sorry I'm long-winded here, but Irving,
Not at
Durant, and
all.
Jordan organized a players-only workout in LA over the course of the summer. And the Nets brought their performance team into Santa Monica to do a 2-day mini camp where they just got some of the players' metrics and wanted to see where they were at. And Irving refused to participate. He said, I have my own routine. But if you read the article, Knicks fans, he was there and he was observing. Then there was an incident in China where they were taking a picture on top of a tower, and the Nets said, can you remove your hat? And he said, no, Photoshop it out. I mean, are these things really what you're going to kill Kyrie Irving over with the way he's looked through the first 3 games? He's been the best point guard in the league over this stretch, better than Dame, better than Russ, better than Steph. And you're really going to sit here and make something a story that's not? Come on, man. Read the article. Educate yourself. This is Kyrie Irving's last shot at a reputation, and I don't think he's going to waste it. Not over some stupid hat, okay? He's going to be fine. This is a new team. They have to iron out their kinks. You know what? If it doesn't work out, then that's on Kyrie. But the culture that Marks and Atkins have built is not going to go away because these superstars are here. They're either going to mesh together and they're going to win a championship, or the Nets will just go back to being the Nets. But get off of Kyrie's back. Damn.
Yeah, you know what? I love your passion. I love your fire, and I'm with you. I have really two thoughts on this. The first is that there's always this allure of narrative. And someone who's on the Nets now, who I remember this really vividly with, was Kevin Durant. There was this narrative about Durant that he was just this soft-spoken, nice guy who just fit in. And it took, what, 6, 7 seasons for people to realize that that was nowhere near who he was? That this was just the narrative that had been given to him? For Kobe Bryant, it was always about being selfish, and everything had to fit into that narrative. And we do it now with LeBron. We do it with all of these players. And Irving is just the latest and greatest to get there. There's this narrative that he's somehow ruining the team. Meanwhile, he's won an NBA Finals. He's been to a number of All-Star games. The Celtics were a pretty good team with him on there. I understand that they didn't meet expectations a year ago, but to be honest, I don't think that that's all on Kyrie. I mean, look at Gordon Hayward, who was a shell of his former self last year. Look at guys like Marcus Morris, who are not exactly your ideal teammates. I mean, I think there's a lot of blame to go around, and oftentimes the big stars get more of the blame when things go wrong than they should, and more of the credit when they go right. And that's the reality. So I think that's one thing here, and I think that if this story would not be coming out if the Nets were 3-0 and they won those 2 overtime games. I think this would be getting held back, and I think the fact that they published it after the Nets narrowly lose 2 games and could very easily have been 3-0 is sort of ridiculous because there has been no demonstrable impact whatsoever from Kyrie on his team. It's not like the Nets are playing poorly. I mean, at some point, this is not a basketball story, and it has nothing to do with the team. It has nothing to do with the way they're playing. And it's just, I don't know. I think it becomes a little bit of character assassination right now with Kyrie Irving. And I say that as someone who has really no dog in this fight. I don't know that it's needed for us to pile on with these kind of vague, once-off anecdotes about Kyrie Irving being moody. If you want to find those anecdotes, you can find that about any player in the league. None of these guys are going to be on all the time, and neither should Irving, and I wouldn't expect him to. So I'm with you, Jason. I love the passion, and I look forward to the Nets getting you a birthday present win tomorrow.
Thanks, man. I just want to say one more thing. Look, I get it. The Nets are in the national spotlight now. They're going to be looked at under a heavy microscope. Kyrie, rightfully so, is going to be looked at with a heavy microscope. He's going to sneeze, and it's going to be a story. What I'm pissed off about is the clickbait. There are these sites that are not even affiliated with ESPN, and they're getting just people to go, oh, the Nets are in trouble, and it's making it more of a story than it is. That's what I'm upset about. Read the story. Educate yourself. Okay? Don't just say, oh, the Nets are team turmoil. Get out of here with that. Okay? It's bad clickbait. That's all I'm going to say.
The one thing I can't wait for, Jason, I just want to be on record as calling this right now. When the Nets win like 50 games this year or 48 games and they win a first round playoff matchup or something like that, I can't wait. I can already see it. And if it's not this year, it'll definitely be next year when Durant comes back. I can't wait for the redemption arc of how Kyrie changed